Hello students of class 12. Hope you all are doing well with your studies. In our last class we have started the chapter of organisms and populations. Today we will continue with the remaining portion of this chapter, that is the population portion. Okay, so let us start today's class. First you have to know what do you mean by population. How can you define population basically? A population is defined as the total number of individuals of a species in a specific geographical area which can interbreed under natural conditions to provide fertile offsprings and function as a unit of biotic community. Okay, and population ecology, it links ecology to population, genetics and evolution all. Now what are the characteristics of population? First, the characteristics of population is population size or density, birth or natality rate, death or mortality rate, and sex ratio. We will discuss in details slowly. But before that, you know what are the attributes of population. The population attributes include birth rate, death rate, sex ratio, age pyramid, and population density. Right? Now, birth rate. What is birth rate or natality rate? Birth rate or natality rate is expressed as the number of births per 1000 individuals of a population per year, right? What is death rate? Death rate or mortality rate? Same. You can say either death rate or you can term as mortality rate. It is expressed as the number of deaths per 1000 individuals of a population per year. Okay. Next, sex ratio. It is expressed as the number of females per 1000 males of a population in given time. Okay, and what is age pyramid? Age pyramid is the structure which is obtained when the age distribution is plotted for the population. The pyramid indicate the ratio of pre-reproductive, reproductive and post-reproductive individuals in a particular population. Now it is of three types. One is expanding, second is stable, third is declining. Okay, you can see in this slide the pre-reproductive is denoted in yellow and in the sky blue is the reproductive and post-reproductive is given in pink color. You can see the chart here. For human population, the age pyramid generally they show the age distribution in males and females in a combined diagram. So when it is starting as a pyramid, means from at the corner at the top it is conical and it is sliding towards the base, then we say as expanding or growing pyramid. It is a triangular shaped pyramid, and when it is stable it will be bell shaped pyramid, and declining will be urn shaped pyramid. Okay, now this the total number of population density. Before that, you know what is the population size or population density. Population density we say in short as PD or N. Okay, PD we say the population density, we denote it as N. How? I'll tell you. The population size or density of a species is the number of individuals of a species per unit area or volume. Now when you find out the population density PD equal to the number of individuals in a region, we denote as capital N, by the number of unit area in a region, we denote it as small I, capital S. So what will be the population density? PD equal to N by S. So when we calculate the number of individuals in a region divided by the number of unit area in a particular region, then we can say or we can find out the population size or population density. Okay. In some cases what happens, the indirect estimation of the population sizes is performed, like tiger census in national park and tiger reserve, which is based on the PUG marks and fecal pellets. It is found out as indirect estimation of the population size. And population size is also measured in percentage cover or biomass, like in the areas where suppose 200 Parthenium plants and a huge banyan trees are seen. In such cases, what happens? The measuring percentage cover or biomass is meaningful to show the importance of the banyan tree. And the population density of the Siberian cranes in Bharatpur wetlands in any year is less than 10. It is the millions for Chlamydomonas in a pond. So in that way, the Siberian cranes number or the population density is determined. And relative population density means without knowing the absolute population density. It is used in some cases to find out the total number of population. When this total number, basically it's a difficult measure for a huge population. Like the number of the fishes which is caught per trap indicates the total population density in the lake. In some cases, what happens? Indirect estimation of population size is performed also, right? And in this way, the population sizes basically they depend on the different factors like the availability of food, the predation pressure, and the weather. And the changes in the population density, they give some idea about the population, whether it is flourishing population or declining population. Now the four basic processes which fluctuate the population density or the population growth. What are those? Natality, number 1. Number 2, mortality. Number 3, immigration. Number 4, emigration. Now what are these? The size of a population, it depends on the food availability, predation pressure, weather. Therefore, the size of the population, it is not a static parameter. So these basic processes, what are these? Natality is the number of birth during a given period of time, and it indicates the population density. And the mortality, what is that? It is the number of deaths in a given time period, and it decreases the population density. Immigration, what is that? It is the number of individuals of same species added to a habitat in a given time period, and it increases the population density. Understood? Coming inside from outside, that is immigration. And emigration, what is that? It is the number of individuals of same species that move to a different habitat in a given time period, and therefore the population density is decreased here. Understood? And the natality and immigration, it increases the population density, and mortality and emigration, it decreases the population density. Now when we say n is the population density at a time t, if we have to calculate, then its density at time is equal to t plus 1. Then how we find out? N t plus 1 equal to n1 plus b plus 1 minus d plus e. Now what are these? What are these denoting? Natality we say as b. Population density we derive as n, immigration I, emigration E, and mortality as D. Okay, and under normal conditions, the birth and the death are important factors influencing the density of the population. Immigration and emigration, they have importance only under special condition. For example, if you see for a colonizing new habitat, what happens? Immigration may be more significant to population growth than the birth rate. And this equation, it shows that the population density will increase if the number of birth plus the number of immigrants means p plus 1, is more than the number of death plus the number of emigrants, that is d plus e. Otherwise, it will decrease. Clear? Now we come to the population growth models. There are two models of population growth. One is the exponential growth, another is the logistic growth. Exponential growth or geometric growth, we say, it is very common where the resources are unlimited. Resources means food and space. Where the resources or food and space are unlimited, the exponential or geometric growth is very common. And the equation for exponential growth can be derived as dn by dt equal to b minus d multiplied by n. So when we put up the values, we can find out this exponential growth. What is capital N? That is the population size. Nt is equal to the population density after time t. N0 is the population density at time 0. Okay, and R intrinsic rate of natural increase, E is equal to the base of the natural logarithms, B equal to birth rate and D equal to death rate. Clear? So when you find out this exponential growth curve, you can see here it's given in this slide. The x-axis we take as t and the y-axis we take as the population density. Okay, so you have to draw the diagram to show the population growth curve. This is the exponential growth curve. Clear? In exponential growth curve, when n, capital N, in relation to time is plotted on graph, the curve becomes J-shaped. You can see here the curve is J-shaped. This is the exponential growth model. This is one of the population growth models. Okay. Another is the logistic growth. Here what happens? The resources become limited at certain point of time. So no population can grow exponentially. The growth model here is more realistic, and every ecosystem or environment or habitat has limited resources to support a particular maximum number of individuals, called its carrying capacity. Carrying capacity we say as capital K. Okay, when n is plotted in relation to time t, the logistic growth show sigmoid curve and is also called the Warhurst-Pearl logistic growth. Okay, so when you find out the equation dn by dt equal to Rn within bracket k minus n by k. Now what does this signify? N will be the population density at time t, R will be the intrinsic rate of natural increase, and k will be the carrying capacity. Okay, so this is the logistic growth curve. Understood? And population evolved to maximize their reproductive fitness, or we say the Darwin's finches. Under a particular set of selection pressure, the organisms evolved towards the most efficient reproductive strategy. Understood? And different life history variation is also there. Darwin's fitness, what does it refer? Basically to the population where they evolved to maximize their reproductive fitness, that is high R value. Under selection pressures, organisms evolved towards the most efficient reproductive strategy, and the rate of the breeding varies from species to species, as some organisms breed once in their lifetime, like the Pacific salmon fish or the bamboo, while others breed many times during their lifetime. Most birds and mammals do the same. Some organisms, what happens? They produce a large number of small-sized offspring like oyster, pelagic fishes, but there are many others who produce a small number of large-sized offspring like the birds and the mammals. The ecologists so suggest that the life history traits of organisms have evolved in relation to the constraints imposed by the abiotic and biotic components of the habitat in which they live. Understood? So these population interaction between two species, that is known as interspecific interactions. These interspecific interactions of the population between two different species. The interactions may be beneficial or positive effect, harmful or detrimental or negative effect, neutral or neutral interaction, or it may not have any effect. Right? So we will know about these 5 like mutualism, competition, predation, parasitism, commensalism and amensalism. Clear? Predation. The first one we will discuss. Let us start with the predation. Predation, what is that? The predation is nature's way of transferring energy to higher trophic levels, like a tiger who is a predator eating a deer who is a prey, A sparrow is a predator eating fruit or seed, which is the prey. Okay, it is an interspecific interaction where an animal who is called a predator kills and consumes the other weaker animals who is known as prey. Now you can say, what are the role of predators? Predators keep prey population under control. This is called biological control. Predators also help in maintaining species diversity in a community by reducing the intensity of competition among prey species. And beside acting as conduits for energy transfer across the trophic levels, the predators play another important role. In absence of predator species, the prey species could achieve a very high population density and lead to the instability of the ecosystem. When certain exotic species are introduced into a geographical area, what happens? They become invasive and they start spreading fast. Why? Because they invaded the land, and that land does not have its natural predators. And if a predator is too efficient and overexploits its prey, then the prey might become extinct, and following it, the predator also will become extinct. Why? Because it will not get the food, right? And what is the prey defense mechanism? The prey defense mechanism. To avoid being detected easily by the predators, some species of insects and frogs are cryptically colored, which is known as camouflaged, like the monarch butterfly. It is highly distasteful to its predator or the birds. Why? Because it has a special chemical which is present in its body, which is acquired by the butterfly by feeding on a poisonous weed in its caterpillar stage. Okay, so in that way, the monarch butterfly or monarch butterfly, you can pronounce that, is highly distasteful to the birds. And some plants, they have thorns or spines for defense mechanism, like acacia cactus, so that the predators can't consume them. Some plants, they produce highly poisonous chemicals like cardiac glycosides, nicotine, caffeine, quinine, and so on. These are produced by the plants actually. Why? As defense against the grazers and the browsers. Clear? So in that way, these prey defense mechanism is adapted by different types of plants and animals. Understood? This is predation. Now we come to the next part of competition. Competition is a type of interaction where both the species suffer. It may exist between some species, which is known as interspecific competition, or between individuals of same species, which is known as intraspecific competition. The competition occurs. Why? Why competition is occurring? Due to limited resources between the closely related species. Some totally unrelated species could also compete for the same resource, like in some shallow American lakes, visiting flamingos and resident fishes. They compete for their common food, which is the zooplankton. Okay, so there is a competition for the same resource between totally unrelated species. Flamingos and fishes, those are totally unrelated species. In interspecific competition, the feeding efficiency of one species might be reduced. Why? Due to the interfering and inhibitory presence of the other species, although the resources are abundant. For example, after the introduction of goats in Galapagos Island, the Abingdon tortoise became extinct within a decade. Why? Due to greater browsing efficiency of the goats. This competitive release refer to the phenomena of a species whose distribution is restricted to a small geographical area because of the presence of a competitively superior species is found to expand its distributional range dramatically when the competing species is experimentally removed. Here we come to the Gauss's competitive exclusion principle. Gauss's competitive exclusion principle states that two closely related species competing for a same resource cannot coexist indefinitely and the competitively inferior one will be eliminated eventually by the superior one. Understood? Another term is there which you have to know is the resource partitioning. It refers to the phenomena in which the species facing competition might evolve mechanisms that promote coexistence rather than exclusion. MacArthur showed that five closely related species of warblers living on the same tree were able to avoid competition and coexist due to behavioral differences in their foraging activities. This is about the competition. Next, we come to parasitism. Parasitism is the mode of interaction between two species in which one species, who is the parasite, depends on the other species, who is known as the host, for food and shelter, and in this process damages the host. In this process, one organism is benefited while the other is being harmed. Who is benefited? The parasite. Who is harmed? The host. Okay. And adaptation of the parasite have evolved to be host specific in such a manner that both the host and the parasite tend to co-evolve. Okay, and loss of unnecessary sense organ is taking place. Presence of adhesive organ or suckers are present in the parasite. Loss of digestive system and high reproductive capacity. Okay, this is the adaptation of the parasite. These 5 points are the adaptation of the parasite. And the life cycle of some parasite are complex, where one or more intermediate host or vectors to facilitate the parasitization is present. Like the human liver fluke. The human liver fluke, it depends on two intermediate hosts, a snail and a fish, to complete its life cycle. You know the malarial parasite also, the Plasmodium. It needs a vector to complete its life cycle, that is the mosquito acts as the vector here. And the majority of the parasites harm the host by reducing the survival, growth and reproduction of the host. They reduce its population density by making the host physically weak. Okay, this is about parasitism. Now you know parasites may be two types. One is ectoparasite, another is the endoparasite. Ecto means outside, endo means inside. Ectoparasite are the parasites which feed on the external surface of the host organism for food and shelter, like the lice on humans, the ticks on the goats, copepods, cuscuta. These are the examples of ectoparasite. And endoparasite are the parasites which live inside the body of the host at different sites, like liver, it can be kidney, it can be lungs for food and shelter, like the tapeworm, liver fluke, Plasmodium. These can be the examples of endoparasite. So many examples you can give, just remember 2 or 3 examples from each. And the phenomena in which one organism, that is the parasite, lays its eggs in the nest of another organism is called brood parasitism. Understood? It is known as brood parasitism. This is basically found in birds. Okay, cuckoo and crow. The cuckoo lays its eggs in the nest of the crow. The crow sits on it and it thinks that it is the eggs are of the crow, and when the cuckoo bird comes out, it flies away because it is not a crow. It was the egg of the cuckoo. Next we come to the commensalism. Commensalism is referred to as the interaction between two species where one species is benefited and the other is neither harmed nor benefited. You see, whatever we are discussing about, this is basically all about the interaction between the two species. Okay, understood? One will completely damage the other. Another, you will see both the species suffer. another you will see one will be completely dependent on the other, and so on. So whatever we are discussing here, all these topics are about the interaction between the two species, how these are interacted. Now commensalism examples you can give like an orchid growing in an epiphyte on a mango tree. The orchid gets shelter and nutrition from the mango tree, while the mango tree is neither benefited nor harmed. Okay. And barnacles growing on the back of a well. The barnacles are benefited to move to location for food as well as shelter, while the whales are neither benefited nor harmed. The egrets are in close association of grazing cattle. The cattle egrets are benefited by the cattle to detect the insects, because cattle stir up the bushes and insects are flushed out from the vegetation to be detected by the cattle egrets. And the commensalism is also found between sea anemone and the clownfish. The fish is protected from the predators and the sea anemones are neither benefited nor harmed. So this is all about the chapter of organisms and population. Till this much today, nothing more in this chapter. We'll start another chapter in our next class. Thank you.